The best employee gets promoted, the company loses a great employee and gains an unprepared manager. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I think this happens way too often in our business world. Performance earns the opportunity, but preparation determines what happens after that. Again, we tend to see this a lot with uh, people who have performed very well and they get promoted. And on the surface, that seems like the right thing to do, right? But why does this transition sometimes fail? But what leaders should be doing before the promotion? Let's talk about the problem. Why promoting the high performance leader or person feels safe? Well, that's because that person has already performed in a role, they've already done well. That person has built some trust with others, they're dependable. But I think the big word that gets used is they deserve. They deserve the recognition to move up. They've earned the right. Whatever word we want to put in there, they feel like they need to move up. But what about the role they're moving into? Are they actually moving into a role that they can do? How does that role compare? But again, as we look at this, the decision is not automatically wrong that we should not move high performance people into better roles. The question really should be, are we preparing them and actually have them ready to move into those roles? And how we do that is we look at the roles they're in today, how well are they doing, and we put together plans for the future. Where do they want to progress? Here's where one-on-ones come in. We work on the fact that we have a succession plan. How do we move that forward? How do we prepare people and get them ready? But looking at a person that is very much a task-oriented role, and all of a sudden they're going to move more into a management, hopefully a leadership role at some point, uh, do they have the tools to do that? Because that task management role is way different than dealing with people. Um, all these new skills matter. These are important for us to follow and look at. Promotion shouldn't just be a role transition. It's not just a reward. And I think that's important to look at because too often people get rewarded for a role when they're not really ready for the role. And we'll cover that a little bit more, but I want to kind of follow with a little story of an example. I was a sales manager at the time. We had a person in our yard that did a phenomenal job. Uh, he was good with the culture. He was good with the people. He knew how to get people to work. He just had the team engaged. He prevented problems. He could see things coming. Was just dependable. He did a great job, but he felt that need that he needed to progress. He felt like he needed to move forward. He also needed to earn some more money. But this is part of the problem within our business world. Look at how do we go about getting a new job? First thing we do is we create a resume, right? What does that resume show is all the different positions we held to see how we're progressing. So our natural culture is built around progression. And to get progression, we tend to move to another position. But is that always right? What if that person's the best person for that job that they're already in? How do you keep them there? Not because you want to keep them there, but maybe they want to stay there. How do you keep them there and help them feel like they're still progressing? Help them feel like they're still earning and taking care of their family. But this was an example of this person that felt that need. He needed to feel like he was progressing and moving up the ladder. So we started working with him. I was a sales manager. He wanted to become a salesman. So I started working with him and we moved him inside, just kind of working at the counter and doing some jobs to kind of get a feel for what was going on. Um, we worked and got him prepared the best we felt we could, and the position finally came up, and we moved him in a sales role. Uh, he very much struggled in this role because he was used to tasks. He also, I know he came out of the military and was right in the role that he had been in for years, and he had that structure. He had that structure of doing things and moving things forward for him. He didn't have to think about his day because it was already structured out for him. Well, when you go into sales, then all of a sudden you're owning your own structure, you're owning your schedule, and that was a struggle for him. So we obviously got the planner involved, and how do you plan your day, how do you do that? And so we kind of worked through those basic things that we needed to work on, and so that started to improve a little bit, but I could just tell that things weren't going, I think the way he wanted them to. And we had been several months into this, and one day we were having our meetings, and I asked him, I said, "Are you enjoying your job?" And the answer was immediately no. And we kind of had the conversation around why, and it really was, he felt very confident in his past role. He liked what he did in his past role. He just felt that need that he needed to progress, and he didn't like where he was going. And when it came down to it, we were able to shuffle some things around, was able to get him back in that role, was able to create some new responsibilities for him that could earn him some more pay. And as far as I know, he has remained in that similar position for most of his career, and probably has done a very good job. But now we kind of go on to new managers, and we're looking at, oftentimes we take task-oriented people and we throw them in a management role. And what's the first thing they do when they get put in that role? They fall back on tasks, right? They start looking at reports, they look at processes, they look at schedules, they look at customer satisfaction, they look at all these things that drive the business, and they look at tasks around those. How do I look at this report and make sure it's getting better? They focus on the metrics, because the metrics and the tasks are much more manageable to them because that's what they're used to. If you look at people that are more in those task roles, it's a change to go from that role to management role. Same as going from sales or operation to sales. Those are very distinct divisions, and it takes different people to do those functions. But through this, people can go through this shift, and they deal with finding the things that are comfortable for them. And so you think about, as we talk about this promotion, that people are moving from one role to another. What are the gaps that are going to be there? Can we help smooth those gaps out? But as they're going along, they're finally figuring out how to manage the metrics, and they're doing okay. But one day somebody walks in their office and completely unloads all their frustration. They don't know what to do. And the first thing they say is, "No one ever taught me how to handle this." That's because it's very hard to teach what's going to happen when you're dealing with people, because every personality is different, every reaction is different, everything comes at you at a different angle. It's not something easy to teach. And so it takes time and it takes some work. And some people are a little more born leadership, as people are born sales focused. You look at those things, but us as leaders, as we're promoting others, we need to be looking at that step. And again, that promotion, are they ready? Do they understand? Do they have any gaps? There are things that we can work on. But a lot of our world today relies on trial and error. And very sad that's what we live in. I know that in my career, there was a lot of sink and swim scenarios. It's like, here, we're going to throw you in this role. don't know how to help you, but here you go. And you're kind of in it, you learn it, you move on. And that's that's not the best scenario. So trial and error is going to happen, but it should not be our leadership development plan. Listen to that. Should not be our leadership development plan. How do we build that plan? How do we work on it? And how do we create this succession plan so people can progress and be ready for the next role that they're moving into? That comes back to coaching, mentoring, what I focus on. Another thing that happens a lot of times is micromanagement appears, and that's just natural. If you're task oriented, you're pushing your tasks onto other people, and you're measuring those other people based on their tasks. Again, that tends to fall into a micromanagement role. It tends to feel familiar again. You can train out of micromanagement. I've done that. People can get past being a micromanager, but I look at micromanagement. You have trust on one side. You can over trust somebody and have no accountability, or you can under trust someone and have micromanagement. Where is the balance in that? The balance is in the middle, right in the sweet spot called delegation. You have to have enough trust that you allow them to do a job and you delegate that job to them and you don't micromanage them. There's the balance. You've got to look at that. You can't overtrust and you can't over micromanage. You've got to find that happy medium with delegating work. And I think that's very important. But, we can have a title change, but sometimes our identity doesn't change. But what about leading before the promotion ever comes? There are people out there that are natural born leaders. They tend to rally people. They tend to create a culture. They just bring a lot of things to the table. Even though they may not be the person in charge, they can still be that leader and help people. They may not be judgmental. That helps a ton. There's a lot of factors that go into this. Are they honest in feedback to their peers? Hey, so and so, let me help you with that. Let me show you an easier way to do it. Are they giving away their knowledge? Are they helping others? Are they helping the company, the culture? You don't have to be the boss. You don't have to have a structured organization to be a leader. You can be a leader and help all the people around you. So look at that as we're promoting people and moving people forward. Are they a natural born leader? Have they already acquired this? But think about that, giving away your knowledge. I always say that if you want to be promoted, you need to have your replacement ready. So that's a big key there. Your replacement's never going to be ready if you hold your knowledge back. If you're holding that, thinking that you have an edge, that nobody can fire you or let you go or whatever because you've got an edge, that's not going to get you anywhere. The more you share your knowledge and move that out demonstrates true leadership. So what should organizations look for? Organizations really need to look for more visible output. They need to look for those internal workings and networkings that are going on. They need to look for leadership signals. So do they rally the team? Do they help others? Do they have empathy and honesty? Do they gain respect? That's a key there. If they gain respect, then obviously they're doing something. Do they keep commitments? All of these things are leadership signals that we can watch for. How do they respond when they get frustrated? Do they share their knowledge? Do they strengthen others? Do they drain the culture or do they improve it? All these technical gaps can be worked through. So what's the leadership shift here? Leadership shift is really about we need to teach leadership with the same seriousness as business metrics. And I mean that because I've been through a lot of leadership training. They call it leadership training or sometimes management training, but leadership training, and you spend 80% of your time on metrics and 20% on what you'd call soft skills. And I think that that needs to be changed. We need to be looking as future leaders in our businesses that we need to teach leadership. We need to teach how to deal with people, how to coach, how to delegate, how to not micromanage, how to give honest feedback, how to have conflict resolution, the emotional regulations. Success equals personal accomplishment. This is the phrase before promotion. So when we have success, it's oftentimes based on our personal accomplishment. But then after that promotion comes into a management role, that success now equals developing others while still producing results. Well, I can tell you from my past experience, the better the culture is in your organization, the better performance you're going to have. You focus on the culture, you focus on the people, you're always going to have better results. So, should we stop promoting high performance people? No. But we need to stop assuming that performance alone is preparation, because it's not. So in closing, think about your career, think about your promotions, think about the things you've seen. Is this fit kind of what I'm saying here? What happened to you? What did you learn? What experience do you have? Leave me something in a message here. Let me know what you went through. Love to hear your feedback. So as we move on, I have the Genuine Mentor. Mentoring Moments is my videos that I have here. My next one coming up in a few weeks will be delegation. Why delegation fails. But if you like what you hear, follow me here on YouTube. And follow me on genuinementor.com. I have a lot of training literature and other things there. But let me leave you with this last quote. Great employees can become great leaders, but the transition must be developed, not assumed. I hope you all have a great day.